I was at home watching television. I had already prepared everything for when my husband came home from work. Provide him with something to eat. I have been married to Gabriel for more than 10 years. With ups and downs, as in all marital relationships, but through dialogue we have worked through the disagreements we have experienced. Hi honey, before continuing the story, I ask you to give a like to the video. It doesn't cost you anything and you help me a lot. A kiss and we continue. Gabriel works as a driver, he cooperates a cab. I received the door and quickly stopped to take it. Mary, feed me quickly as my friend Pablo will arrive in about 20 minutes. He asked me to help him with the cab, as his taxi has broken down and needs urgent service. And listening to him, I felt uncomfortable, since I don't like his friend Pablo very much and I had never seen him in person. The reason is that since Gabriel met him at the cab place, they became close friends and always enjoyed talking about him. And that caused me great discomfort. I understand that they are great friends and get along very well. However, I didn't like that he always mentioned his friend Pablo. It even seemed like he was praising him. I provided the food and reflected. Yes, I am going to meet this Pablo who has it in for me. Gabriel was still eating when the doorbell rang. Unfold Mary, it must be Paul. So I walked to the door and when I opened it, I saw a man of about 35 years old. With a good physique and very attractive. I looked him up and down because really his cock-like posture struck me. With a smile he greeted me. Good afternoon, I am Gabriel, his friend Pablo. He was shocked and I informed him that I am Mary, his wife. And Pablo smiled at me with more joy and expressed to me, with pleasure Mary. Gabriela, he told you a lot about you. But he forgot to mention that you are very beautiful. And hearing him talk to me this way, I even felt like I was beginning to like him. Pablo, quickly go into the house, Gabriel is eating, I told him as he entered. Gabriel greeted him and they began to talk about how the cab would take him in the evening. Just when the driver delivered Pablo's cab. I was wearing my apron because I had just finished cooking, but I reflected. Pablo already gave me a messy look, but tonight I'm going to dress elegantly to make a good impression on him. As a woman I value a man's kindness, and Pablo had left me in awe. When Pablo left, I asked Gabriel curiously, why didn't you reveal to me who your friend was? I thought he was the same age and weight as you. Gabriel laughed at what I mentioned and replied, isn't it true that he is very attractive? What if he revealed to you the reason for his real body? His other work requires it. And from what he mentioned to me, I was intrigued. And what work does he do in his other occupation? My husband Gabriel observed me and informed me that Pablo is a dancer for women. And that's why he always does physical activity. Now I understand that's why you always refer well to him and his strength, and I thought he was alluding to his personality. However, I was amazed when he mentioned that there were women who even sought him out at the cab place to provide them with a comprehensive service and not just a cab service. Gabriel started laughing at what he communicated to me, which left me even more devoted. And many women will seek him out, they still form. And when I listened to him, I was fascinated by what he was telling me. Gabriel observed my astonished face and said to me, that's why I always mention to you the characteristics of my friend Pablo, because I admire him so much. Gabriel began to watch TV and I stared at his friend Pablo. I was intrigued, and I realized that I didn't like Pablo. Now I understand why my husband, Gabriel, always referred to his friend with great respect. I set off so that on the night when Pablo arrived with the cab, I would no longer find myself in brand name clothes. In this way, it was already 9 o'clock at night when Pablo opened the door. I was already prepared and properly equipped. Now if only he didn't see me in an apron. Gabriel had the door opened and when Pablo looked at me, I understood that I had managed to attract his attention. He smiled at me and I smiled at the same time. Pablo, said my husband Gabriel, would you like something to drink? Mary cooked something very tasty and Pablo did. The evening was going pleasantly. Pablo and Gabriel were laughing a lot. And I noticed that they were getting along very well, despite their age difference of 10 years. Gabriel enjoyed spending a lot of time with Pablo. They were able to talk about anything. My husband would tell me about it, until the dialogue focused on me. How old are you, Mary? Paul replied that he was 45 years old. However, I was embarrassed by his expression. He gave me a half smile and flirtatiously asked me, how old are some of my clients? Many of them are married like you and some are not. But I prefer to be with other people. I had no idea what to answer him, And my husband Gabriel interrupted and said the following. It's unfortunate that Mary has always maintained a very conservative approach to restlessness. And they started laughing. They were playing with it. However, I did get irritated with Gabriel for expressing himself this way in front of his friend Paul. They noticed my discomfort and Pablo asked me, "Who is Gabriel?" "The very beautiful wife. Any man would be happy to have married her." Listening to what he was assigning me, I really thought he was a gentleman. I had already transformed my perception of him. And now he began to impress me very well. Pablo concluded dinner and left. However, as we said goodbye, he gave me a kiss on the cheek. "I'll see you another day," Pablo said to me with a captivating look, and my husband Gabriel just watched but also laughed. It seemed that Pablo's posture towards me pleased him. When Pablo left, I expressed to Gabriel that I was not pleased with his behavior towards me, especially since his friend Pablo should not know that I am very private in intimacy. I was really angry with my husband and he said, "I don't understand why you are upset, Mary. It was just a comment." However, I can assure you that because of the conversations I have with my friend Paul, we lack emotion in our love relationship. He tells me some stories with his clients and just by imagining, I get excited to verify if what he mentions is true. For Gabriel, it's better to go to sleep. I don't want to argue with your friend anymore. The next morning, Gabriel went to work and everything continued as before until my husband returned from work. "Mary, I heard that my friend Pablo had invited us to his house on Friday night to watch the soccer game. I do want to hear, but he said you should too." I asked, "What for?" "If you're going to watch the food, I'll get bored. I'd better stay." However, Gabriel pushed me so hard to go with him that I had to agree. "You are doing well. I want my friend to see you look stunning. Do you think he mentioned to me that he perceives you as attractive?" And listening to him, I replied, "Don't let it bother you that your friend informed you that about me. I am your wife." And Gabriel confessed to me that he actually liked that a lot since he imagined that his friend liked me. And for a moment, I reflected that a 45-year-old woman could still attract a 35-year-old. That puzzled me and I opted to dress in my best clothes so his friend Paul could see me. Friday arrived and Gabriel was extremely excited. At first I thought it was because of the game they were going to show on TV. But when I got to Pablo's house, I realized it was for another reason. When Pablo saw me, he greeted me in a very Galician way. "Mary, you look wonderful. How lucky Gabriel is." And I totally blushed, but his compliments pleased me. Pablo pulled out some drinks and we began to consume them. The game hadn't even started when my husband Gabriel let out a shout. "What if we made a bet?" And Pablo did. Gabriel pulled Pablo aside for a conversation and that puzzled me. But then I understood the reason. The match continued and we were very excited. But when it was over and they announced that the winning team was Pablo's, they both turned to look at each other full of complicity. I stopped as I thought that, since the match was over, both Gabriel and I were going to leave, but I found myself with a big surprise. "Gabriel, it's already too late," but he immediately said to me, "Wait a little longer, the bet has yet to be fulfilled." I replied, "But don't be late." I turned and went to the balcony to breathe some fresh air. But his friend Pablo also appeared, approached me and grabbed my hand. However, I let go of his hand and asked him to leave me because I was his friend's wife, which was incorrect. However, he told me that if I did not want to, we could be alone together. Why just the two of us? What is Paul referring to? I did not understand what was going on, and Pablo informed me. "Gabriel did not tell you what we bet." I replied that I didn't know anything about it. He informed me that Gabriel had moved me to his home because he had a fantasy of seeing me with him, and that was the bet. Gabriel had gone to the bathroom for a moment, and Pablo informed me, "You are a very attractive woman, and Gabriel always mentions to me that he would like to see you with someone else. And since I'm his friend, we'd be safe. Think about it, Mary." My perception of my husband Gabriel was transformed in that instant. I couldn't believe what his friend was communicating to me. That Gabriel's disdain in asking me to go with his friend had simply been to somehow persuade me to indulge his fantasy. Paul behaved like a gentleman, as opposed to my husband Gabriel. He told me, "If you don't want to, you don't have to worry. I understand that you feel bad about meeting me, and not your husband." I felt so proud with Gabriel. But Paul was showing me he was a fully matured man emotionally, despite being 10 years younger than Gabriel. I sat down boldly, as I have always held conservative thoughts and had never imagined what I intended to do. All this in order to show my husband Gabriel that I am not as naive as I thought I was. When Gabriel came out of the bathroom, he stared at us, and I was already sure I was with his friend. He knew right away since he knows me, and my behavior was different. I felt confident in myself, and mainly thanks to Pablo, who had behaved like a gentleman by talking to me and letting me know what I liked and what we could leave out of my husband Gabriel. However, since I was already thinking of punishing Gabriel for not being honest, I assured him that everything was fine, and that we could fulfill that fantasy my husband had. When Gabriel heard me, I could only see his face full of longing. I told him, let's get started, let's not waste time. I approached my husband first as I felt safe with him while his friend Pablo watched us. I had dressed up in fancy clothes, but that was the least important thing. They were both so enthusiastic. At first I experienced nervousness, but Pablo gave me the reassurance I required, and I realized he was a specialist and knew what to do. The environment became captivating for me. I let myself be carried away by my feelings, and Pablo and my husband Gabriel registered it. But mostly my husband Gabriel, as we suddenly left him and I just wanted to be close to Pablo. It was different, as after more than 10 years married to Gabriel, all the passion had become monotonous, and now, 10 years younger, his friend Pablo was attracting me more. My husband Gabriel, from one moment to the next, was gone, and Pablo and I were moving on. Gabriel, though he kept telling me we would be no more, we didn't consider it at all. At that moment I disregarded my husband. From that instant on, I was going to be the only one who determined who to be with. Gabriel watched me, but I was no longer the same. Something changed inside me, and he detected it. And for my husband Gabriel, nothing was the same. When I got home, I noticed he had a different expression. Something was not right. I asked him, "What's wrong with you?" And he told me sincerely, "I didn't imagine it would be like this. You didn't consider me. I noticed that my friend Pablo was more beneficial to you." And listening to him with that disdain, I answered him, "I simply did what you wished, Gabriel. You made me discover different things. You dragged me into this. Now you don't have the ability to tell me anything. We were not one of the couples who enjoyed being together the most. I still don't understand why my husband Gabriel wanted to experiment with different things. I have thought that maybe the reason is that he doesn't love me anymore. So he tried to see me with someone else. My mind goes through numerous thoughts such as this, or I just did it out of curiosity. I still fail to understand the reason. However, what I am convinced is that everything has evolved since that experience with his friend Pablo. I chose to be together, and my husband Gabriel can no longer do anything. He thought he would only do it for that moment, and to achieve his fantasy. However, now that I have experienced something different, I consider staying with his friend and let him make me happy when I decide. I am not interested in what my husband Gabriel expresses as he wishes. I appreciate your interest in the video. Subscribe. Activate the bell to receive alerts when I post a new video. Give it a like and share your opinions or experiences in the comments. I value every point of view. We meet in another intriguing story.